Hey y'all, I am Miss Darlin from Dolce Darlin Bakery, and this is Front Porch Feelings. If you are joining us for the first time, the whole idea of this podcast is to have conversations that we would have if we were side by side on the front porch, hanging out, relaxing together, and having some of those hard conversations and joyful conversations and celebrating and reminiscing and, just supporting each other. And the way I've done this always in the past is that I sit on the front porch and I just have a very real chat with y'all about whatever's on my heart and mind. And it's a little too chilly and loud to be on the front porch today. So we're here. But this is podcast number 2. And after a lot of thought, I wanted to make sure we weren't editing. I wanted to make sure that, I wasn't scripting anything. The things I've always loved the most about doing Front Porch Feelings is that it's such a very real conversation that we're having with each other, where y'all contribute to the conversation and I have an opportunity to say what's on my mind. And it's not gimmicky, and it's very authentic and very real and just very meaty. So after some deliberation, I've decided we're not going to edit the podcast pretty much at all unless we need to help sound along or something like that. So we'll grow and do better as we continue moving forward. But if you missed the first podcast, it's called Dynamite Day. It talks about the day that a stick of dynamite hit my family. And we, the kind of the play-by-play for that. And I actually had something different planned for this podcast for number 2. I'd planned on talking about tidying and purging, and that's people and stuff and whatever, to kind of have a cleaner, leaner life and see if you can find a little more joy in that. But after all the comments and messages I received from the podcast, I felt like I wanted to just push forward with that a little bit more. And people were extremely kind about pretty much everything. I only got 1 or 2 borderline messages that were a little bit like, I'm going to have to pray on this one before I answer y'all back. But for the most part, 99% of the time, what I got was love and support and encouragement. And with that, I got a lot of beautiful words thrown at me about me. And humble is not even that barely scratches what I would try to reach for in terms of the feelings I have. But people called me strong and courageous and resourceful, and they said so many wonderful things about me. But there was something that kind of caught my eye that stuck into my heart real deep, and I've been thinking about it ever since I saw it. And someone said that I had an opportunity to be bitter and I chose not to. So I kind of want to talk about that for a second, and I want to talk about how you can become better or you can become bitter. And bitterness, it eats at your soul. Bitterness to me is like jealousy. It is a poison. It is like dishonesty. It blooms into something bigger, and it will get out of control really fast. Was I ever bitter about what happened? Honestly, I wasn't. And I think self-preservation and God's protection and just overstimulation and the absolute necessity to figure out how to continue to live, like literally live day to day, support my family, take care of my kids. I think that all of those things overrode the opportunity that I had to be bitter. But it was very, very hard as time went on not to have these really deep feelings of anger and bitterness. And I don't want to say hatred, because I can tell y'all the truth. I have never hated anybody in my life. Hate was a bad word in our family. As my kids were growing up, there were words they weren't allowed to say. And I feel like y'all probably have those too. Like, they weren't allowed to say shut up. They weren't allowed to say stupid, and they were allowed to say hate, even though they're not bad words. those are basically like, Christian cuss words in our house. So hate is not a word. I just think it's such a big word, and a very direct and very, very strong word. And as a result, I think it should be safe for special occasions, But hate was never a word that was in my heart about this. Um, I think that part of me just kind of shut down so that I could take care of everything else I had to take care of. I wanted answers. I wanted explanations. I wanted to justify things. I needed to be validated. I did not know what was real anymore. And when I say what was real, I mean, I didn't know if my marriage was real, if those declarations of love had ever been real. I didn't know if allegations were real, or if the actions that I was being told were happening were real. It was just a fog of I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. And people would ask me things, and I would go, listen, I don't know. Yeah, well, how are you doing? I don't know. I don't have an answer. I don't know right now. There's so much I don't know. So I think more than leaning towards those angry feelings, it was confusion and fear, a lot of fear, so much fear. However, those questions didn't get answered. They will never be answered. It took me a very, very long time to come to peace with the fact that many questions would never be answered. I remember DM, we've been best friends for, just short of 4 years. And I remember speaking with him on the phone well into the night when I couldn't think anymore. I couldn't breathe anymore. I just was so unsettled and so unhappy and so just in so much pain all the time, like I'd never felt before. And I would say to him, but I just need to know why. And he would say, no, you don't. You're never going to know why. Focus on something else. And in this podcast, you'll hear a lot of ways that DM has supported me with this kind of logic. But in the moments, I'm like, but yes, I need to know. The answers are out there. I just need to run out and grab them and force this conversation and make it happen. But it was so abrupt, the entire situation. It happened so fast, and it was absolutely nothing. And then we were at a 10 and in the emergent level. And as a result, those questions will never be answered. And for me, just so y'all know how I am, and let me just say out loud, this is not my best quality, but it's probably not my worst quality. It could really go either way depending on what kind of attitude you have toward conflict resolution. But I am a person that if we have an argument, if we have a falling out, and I'm not an argumentative person, I like peace. I like peace. I like it. I like it in all the ways. So a lot of times I will be the better, the better, but be the better person. And I'll just kind of hush and I'll let you have it. Whatever it is that feels real important to you, I'll just let you have it. It's not worth it to me. But there are times when, if this truly bothers me, you and we need to talk about it until we're done talking about it. That whole idea of never go to bed angry, my situation is sort of in that vein, but mostly some people need to walk away and clear their heads and to have some space. And I have full respect for that because it takes all kinds of kinds, right? But I'm not that guy. I'm like, no, this is happening now. We need to have this conversation right now. And we're going to talk about it until we're done talking about it. We are going to work all the way through it. I am not a Band-Aid person. And I'm certainly not a Band-Aid person when we have a bullet wound. Sorry, all the Tennessee just came out. When we have a bullet wound to tend with, all right? I will not stick a Band-Aid on stuff. And, that is not always what, keeps me from being everybody's cup of tea. But thankfully, the people that are really close to me that know how I am with this are really respectful about it and they cooperate, right? So in this situation, everything that I am and every desire that I had to resolve this conflict, to get all the information. I want to do a full surgical close on this wound. I want to leave no scar behind, but there was no opportunity for that whatsoever. Not even, y'all. The time that I had to speak to him was so, I could count on one hand how many times I've literally spoken to him in the last 4 years since this has happened. Well, it'll be 4 years in December. And during those times, though, it was, what's the password for this bank account? Can you please sign this deed? I'm going to have to sell the house. Here's what we have to do with that. Here's this document and that document. And what do you know about dates and times? And who do I need to speak to about this? And so it was all very utilitarian, very, emotionless, because, well, I bawled my eyes out every time I spoke to him the entire time, but it was all about functionality. And so all that closure that I needed, I had to find myself. That will breed bitterness, y'all. That will make every single time, oh man, every single time you have that bad feeling, that terrible memory, that horrendous pain in the pit of your stomach or deep, deep, deep in your chest, and you can't fix it by yourself, but the person that normally helps you fix it did it to you. It's the worst. It's so hard. It's so, so hard. And so, I wanted to be bitter and I had a lot of opportunity to be bitter. However, I needed to be better because of my situation. I had to choose being better over being bitter, because being bitter, like being angry, like being jealous, it takes a ton of energy, right? There's an expression that talks about how it takes more muscles to frown in your face than to smile. I don't know if it's true, but it's kind of in that concept of you have to work at being bitter and being angry and holding on to that with an iron fist. And so in the choice realm of, do I want to be bitter or do I want to be better? Where do I want to put my energy? I had to choose better. Sometimes I think back and I thought, you know, I would have appreciated a morning period where I could stay in my bed for a couple of weeks and order terrible takeout food and have, in the movies, like especially these little rom-coms, and the friend finally comes to check on the girl that's lost the love of her life. Stay with me here. And the camera spans through and she has like takeout containers and empty coffees, and she's in sweats and they have stains on them, and her hair has not been washed in a week. And I think it would have been nice to have the opportunity to wallow a little bit, to mourn, to grieve, but I did not have that. So instead of being bitter, I had to choose to be better. And what does that mean? I had to be a better person than the person that hurt me, or than the people that didn't support me. And that's something I've had to choose. I've had to choose to be better for a long time now, because people that said they would support me and said they'd stick with me, well, they got real tired of grief. They got real tired of, okay, but it's a new day. It's only been a week. This horrible thing happened to me and it's been a week. And they got tired of reaching out and I wasn't ready to talk about it. They got tired of me not answering their questions. And so they moved on to something else and somebody else. And, people broke promises about how they would continue to love us. And, you have to be better than the people that hurt you, in the big ways and the small ways. And you have to be, when you're me at least, you have to be a better worker. You have to work harder and longer hours. You have to be willing to take all the bad jobs, because now you're in competition with literally everyone else for every dollar you earn that you absolutely need. You have to have it for survival. You literally have to have it to put food on the table. Someone gave us a bunch of deer meat when everything happened. And when I tell you, we had venison every night for weeks, probably months. I'm not exaggerating. I pinched every penny, I stretched every dollar to its breaking point. Um, so you have to be a better worker. Work harder, longer, faster, take every job, take every dollar, be the best that you can be so that people will come back to you. And that's actually something we do every day right now at the Pink House. Every single day, we talk about honoring the fact that people spend their money here and that money is so hard earned. And so we are going to work even harder to earn it as, in addition to that, along with that. So you have to be a better parent. Y'all, some days I'm like self five. Like I was the mama today. I was the mama everybody would want today. It was a gorgeous meal and an awesome activity, and there was so much wholesome conversation, and there was a lot of laughter and a lot of love. And then other days I wake up and I'm like, um, I don't know how I'm gonna let this kid make it through the day. I don't know how I'm gonna not choose violence today. I don't know how I'm not going to raise my voice, which I'm not a voice raiser in general, but there are days that I know when I open my eyes that I'm going to have to take such careful action in everything I say and do all day just to keep the peace. Because being a parent is ridiculously difficult. I want to have a whole other conversation about that. But when you're choosing bitter over better, being a better parent is important because you have to listen to what's being said and what's not being said. You have to watch that body language. You have to watch those facial expressions. You have to be so in tune with someone else's feelings when all you want to do is figure out what yours are. And it is hard because then you're looking at this other human being that you love so much and you can't take their pain away. All you can do is love them as hard as you can, and you just have so little to give. And then you start thinking, "Oh, buddy, you did this to me. You like you did this." And that bitterness starts to pull a little bit at the heart, and you're like, "Okay, I can either lament on this and think about this, or I can be a better parent than I think I have the ability to right now." So you have to choose that. And then, you just have to be a better person than you were yesterday. That bitterness and anger and all those feelings, the lack of trust that you have for other people, those are choices that we make. And that all kind of falls under that category for me of being bitter and letting that stuff eat at your heart. And what will happen is you choose bitterness, and that's okay. That's fine. That can be your choice if you want, but that stuff is going to start bleeding into everything else you do. If you choose betterness, I don't even know if that's a real word, but if you choose to be better, then that too starts bleeding out into everything else that you do and everything you say and everyone you interact with. And as a result, um, as I am a pure example of, you get a little more steer in the direction of your life. Someone recently said to me, something along the lines of making your life the best it can be, and we don't have all the control in that. Other people have a lot of effect on what our life is like and what it turns into. But the things that we can choose, the things that live within your circle of control, those things like your constant feelings. And I don't mean you can't have a moment of putting your face, I'm going to give you all visual here, and if you are a better person than me and you have never done this, I just want to be like you when I grow up. But if you are one of those people that you walk in your bedroom and you put a pillow up to your face and you're just like, oh my goodness, for just a few seconds, and then you take a breath and you walk away and you try again. I mean, that's me, y'all. Some days That's a moment though. That is not your life. That is not your lifestyle. That is not who you are as a person. That's being a human being dealing with one thing in one moment. Yes, you could cry in the shower. Can I get an amen for everybody that has stood in the shower and cried for a minute and thought, okay, I'm going to allow myself the duration of the shampoo conditioner process to be super upset and to cry about this. But then when I get out, bitterness goes away. I'm going to be better than I was when I walked in here. And it's literally just a choice that I personally had to actively make. Not just every day I wake up and think, okay, I'm not going to let that bitterness sit in my heart today. I'm talking repeatedly throughout the day for weeks after this happened about the way people behave toward me, the things that they said. Um, there were some relationships that were deeply damaged over other people's behavior because for the first time in my life, I was telling people no. For the first time in my life, I was saying, I'm sorry, there's no money to give you. I'm sorry, there are no errands I can run for you. There are no activities I can volunteer for. There is no adoration I can bestow on you right now. I have to stay right here in my little hole with my little people and just start repairing that damage, start doing the surgery, start rebuilding a blown away foundation. This is not a foundation that has cracks. This is a hole in the ground that used to be a home and a family. And so that started with putting dirt back in the hole, not even laying a first brick. But it was something that I had to choose every day, multiple times throughout the day, because I honestly and truthfully believe that that would have eaten me alive. And I 100% without a doubt believe that that would have had such terrible effects on my children, who have turned out to be really good human beings, who have turned out to think of others and to worry about other people's feelings and worry about their lives and pray for them and think about them and consider them in their own choices. So oddly, they're pretty healthy kids for being teenagers. I shouldn't say that. Big D's 21, y'all, and little D will be 20 in December. December 2023, he turns 20. And so, they're not teenagers anymore, but they feel like it to me. And I hope that what you get out of this podcast today is that you do have a choice, and it will be hard. And I want to validate your feelings all the time, because one of the things that, and I don't mean to say, is, digress into something else here, and I promise I'm wrapping it up, but DM and I became friends. I can't wait. I'm going to tell y'all the story of how we met. I'm going to tell y'all very soon about these crazy ways that he supported me at a time when I was almost a perfect stranger. And the fact that this person outside of my circle that had nothing to do with anybody else but now just me gave me so much support and cared about me so much in a way that literally no one else was doing. But shoot, I forgot what I was saying. I was saying that, dang it, I don't remember. We're not cutting and we're not editing. But we talked about being bitter, talking about validating feelings. Here we are. I'm back. I'm so sorry. Validating feelings. I remember in the very early stages of our friendship, we would be having these late night or well into early morning hour conversations. And he would literally say these words to me: your feelings are valid. Of course, I would say, is it dumb that I feel this way? Is it terrible that I feel this way? Am I a bad person for thinking this or feeling this or wanting this? And he would say, of course not. They're your feelings. Your feelings matter, and your feelings are valid, and your feelings belong to you, and nobody gets to dictate those. And it was such a moment of growth for me. And I shouldn't say a moment, I should say a journey of growth, because he said it over and over and over and over again. And it took me, 2 years in to realize that what he was saying was absolutely right. So I want to be the person that tells you, as a listener, as a friend, as a client, as whoever you are to me, that your feelings are valid and they belong to you, and it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about them. So being bitter is a choice that you can make, but I hope that when you start thinking about your feelings and you start thinking about how to move forward, you think about being bitter for a moment, but being better forever, and moving forward on better, and just living in bitter for a moment at a time and moving on. Anyhow, that's all from me. This is podcast number 2. This is Becoming Bitter or Becoming Better. And I thank y'all so much for joining me. It means so much to me to receive your messages and to know that y'all listened, and to honestly to get to share this with y'all. I feel like I'm finally on my own terms opening up to everyone about what happened, and it's a choice that I made, and I'm glad that I'm doing it now, and I'm glad that y'all are along for the ride with me, and I thank you so very much. Reach out to us on social media and follow our page, and you can see our day-to-days. And I hope that you'll join us again for the next one. And for now, please take care of yourself. It's the most important thing you're going to do. Your oxygen mask has to go on first, and then find someone else to take care of as well. We all need more love. We all need more affection. We all need more support. So be a person today that does that for someone else. And if we're all doing it, imagine the daisy chain effect that we'll get out of that. Everyone wins every time. So take care of yourselves and each other.